So I have a case here of just absolutely insane censorship that I have to share with you. Now, I've been telling anybody and everybody who will listen, you have to stop with this nonsense narrative that anytime there's censorship on social media, it's censorship of the right. This is something that's actually a very pervasive narrative online. But it's not true. And you're about to see a great example, a great counterexample to that. That the real breakdown isn't right versus left. The real breakdown is establishment versus anti-establishment. Let me give you the specifics of this. So this is Rania Khalek, a left-wing journalist, and she does some great reporting for this outlet called In the Now. It's kind of like a more left-wing version of Now This, and I'm gonna give you what she tweeted about what happened to In the Now and their accounts. They usually make like short viral videos, but here's what she said, and I'll break it down for you. So she says, Facebook has suspended all of In the Now's Facebook pages, apparently in coordination with CNN, on the grounds that In the Now doesn't disclose who funds it, roughly funds it. This is an outrageous standard that is not applied to other outlets like NPR or AJ+. This is after weeks of CNN digging around to find dirt on us. We then reached out to CNN and let them interview us, which felt more like a police interrogation. The interviewer didn't like my anti-war political views, even attacked my criticism of Trump's coup in Venezuela. CNN says it was alerted to In the Now by the German Marshall Fund, which receives funding from the U.S. government. So here you have a U.S. government-funded outfit prompting CNN to help get us kicked off Facebook. This is a case where the U.S. government has found a legal loophole to suppress speech. In this case, that is critical of destructive U.S. government policies around the world. Even if you hate what I say in my videos, you should be outraged by this speech suppression. CNN should be ashamed for helping the U.S. government suppress speech they don't like. They claim to be for a free and open media, but their behavior in coordinating with Facebook to shut down In the Now shows what BS that is. CNN isn't state media, but it sure acts like it. One more thing, Facebook suspended us on the grounds we don't disclose we receive funding from Rupley, whose parent company is RT. But this standard is not applied to NPR, AJ+, or TRT. It's discrimination, part of a McCarthyist witch hunt. So even if you despise Rania Khalek and her work, this is beyond egregious. This is really political censorship. She has taken a stand, for example, on the issue of Syria, on the issue of Venezuela. She's directly countering the regime change propaganda that's being used in Venezuela. And this is the establishment strikes back. Now, if you remember a while ago, there was a story that broke. Facebook pulled down about 800 political pages, and they had honestly pretty silly arguments as to why, oh my God, we have to pull them down. And they included a lot of anti-war outlets as well as anti-establishment outlets. So you had like the anti-media was in there. I'm blanking on some of the others now, but back when I was on Rogan's podcast, I gave like the list. A lot of the outlets were police accountability outlets. Facebook has these deals with other governments that in order to allow Facebook into various countries, Facebook has to censor certain things. And my takeaway from this recent round of censorship is very simply that Facebook is listening to actors in the U.S. government and groups that are funded by the U.S. government in order to suppress certain narratives. And it's hard to argue the contrary in a case like this where Rania Khalek, of course, by no stretch of the imagination, really violated any terms of service. By the way, on Facebook, they don't even say that, oh, you have to disclose who's funding you, but they just pulled her and said, oh, we have to pull it because you're not disclosing who's funding you. What the fuck? I mean, naked censorship, man, it really is. And remember, she's countering regime change narratives day in, day out. Now, this isn't just happening on Facebook. It's happening on all of social media. So on Twitter, for example. There's this account that propped up after Kamala Harris announced her campaign. The name of the account was Cop Mala. Now, why? Because Kamala Harris is a cop. She's a prosecutor. And she was responsible for example, supporting civil asset forfeiture. Okay, that's legalized robbery by cop. If you support that, you're supporting legalized robbery by cop. She laughed at the idea of legalizing marijuana. She supported criminally cracking down on truancy, which is crazy and a really right-wing idea. So Cop Mala props up, and the Cop Mala account released video of Kamala Harris talking about the issue of truancy, where she lays out her philosophy. And there's other videos there as well, and is basically very critical of Kamala Harris. The entire account is just all to counter her campaign. Now, that's what's called freedom. We live in what's supposed to be a free country, so if people want to prop up anti-Bernie Sanders accounts and they want to run those all day, they do. And they can. And it's not like I come out here and call for all the anti-Bernie Sanders accounts to be censored. It's called freedom. It is what it is. But the Kamala Harris account, Cop Mala, was pulled. And it was pulled under sketchy circumstances. They say, oh, you're impersonating. Impersonating? The name of the site is Cop Mala, not Kamala. It's Cop Mala. It's obviously an account that was created to counter her campaign. Now, you could like that or dislike that, but that's what it is. It's not impersonation. What the fuck are you talking about? Well, take a look at this. This article came out not too long ago. Twitter suspends anti-Kamala Harris accounts suspected of being trolls. What does that mean? Twitter this week suspends at least 2 accounts suspected of troll-like behavior targeting presidential contender Senator Kamala Harris of California, as well as other Democratic candidates. The accounts were created recently and had few followers, but they posted easily shareable content about the senator's record as prosecutor that earned an outsized audience on the platform. One of those accounts claims to belong to a black man in the South who opposes Harris and supports Senator Bernie Sanders, who's exploring a presidential run of his own. Kamala Harris, now, here's the thing. It's already super questionable, because they're just saying, like, oh, they're trolls. What does that mean? And who said trolling is illegal? You could troll. Trolling is just a part of social media. Like, they say it as if that's like an argument in and of itself. Like, oh, they're a troll, so we obviously get to ban them. What the fuck? Kamala Harris, her former press secretary. Now, I heard this, I thought it was a conspiracy theory, I wasn't sure if it was true, so I asked for verification, and people showed me. Kamala Harris's former press secretary now works for Twitter. And would you look at that? The top accounts that were criticizing Kamala Harris were now pulled from Twitter. Now, you might say, well, listen, these are isolated examples. So what? The anti-media gets pulled down. So what? The Free Thought Project gets pulled down. So what? Police accountability groups get pulled down on Facebook. So what? Rania Khalek's outlet gets pulled down when she's countering regime change day in and day out, and they come up with a bullshit rationale. This doesn't mean that there's an anti-establishment crackdown. There's an account. This is amazing. There's an account that was a parody of Rachel Maddow. Now, if you were going to parody Rachel Maddow in today's day and age, what would you name that parody account? What would you do with that parody account? Russia Maddow is the name of the parody account, because what does Rachel Maddow do? She hyperventilates about Russia day in and day out to the point where she is a self-parody. I mean, she's a self-parody. It's hilarious when you watch her show. All she talks about is Russia all the time. It's stunning. In fact, The Intercept did a study on this. This is back when the Russia issue was only an issue for like a month, but they looked at, over this time span, how much has she spoke about other issues versus Russia. She spoke about Russia more than every other issue combined. So there was a parody account called Russia Maddow where they tweeted shit just like Russia, and it was hilarious. In fact, I just followed her recently and retweeted it a bunch because I thought it was fucking hilarious, because that's so true that's what Rachel Maddow does. Well, guess what? That was suspended also. So, listen, even if you're kind to Twitter and Facebook and like, okay, no, seriously, these outlets did violate the terms of service. What fucking argument could you have that Russia Maddow violated the terms of service? Or Cop Mala violated the terms of service? That's not impersonation. Everybody who looks at that knows it's not Kamala Harris. Everybody who looks at Russia Maddow knows it's not Rachel Maddow. They know it's a parody of Rachel Maddow. Sometimes, like when Peter Douche was suspended, that was a parody account of Peter Dow, the most pro-Hillary silly person on the planet. It said parody in his fucking bio. It may have said parody right in the bio of Russia Maddow. But they pull it down anyway. Why? Because it appears like the smoke-filled backroom conspiracy is real when it comes to social media. And sure, they might in some instances say, hey, listen, you know, a guy like Gavin McGinnis, where he's on video saying, I support violence and we should do violence. What they do is they take a case where you really can't argue against it, where it's like, okay, he's calling for direct threats of violence, so you can pull him down. Nobody could argue against that, really, because what are you going to do? Say direct threats of violence are okay? You can't make that argument. That's preposterous. So they take a case where like that, and then what happens is it's the slippery slope. They go, oh, well, hey, you all agree that we can pull down whoever we want, right? You all agree that it makes sense to have some sort of management team pull down accounts, right? Well, now you open that door. And now that door's open, now we see a lot of stuff that on political grounds we're going to start pulling down because we don't like the message they're sending out there. And so that's where we are today. There are many, right-wing outlets that are pulled down. Some of them unfairly, man. It's true. There's a lot of unfair pulling down of right-wing accounts. Even though I don't agree with those accounts, they should have the right to speak on social media. But by the same token, now we're seeing a massive uptick of it on the left. And the final point is, I fucking warned you of this. I warned you of this. I warned you that once you allow censorship, the idea that you're only going to be able to use it, like target it on the people you don't like, you have to be a moron to believe that. Censorship, historically, has been used first and foremost against marginalized groups. Because guess what? The power establishment is not too kind to the marginalized groups. By definition, they're power centers. So, that's why, for example, for free speech law in the U.S., oftentimes, crackdowns on speech, you know who it was used against? The civil rights movement. So you had, the white establishment saying, all these rabble-rousers coming here trying to change the way we do shit, ban this march. They shouldn't be allowed to do it. So if you support censorship, it always comes back to bite the left in the ass. Always comes back to bite the left in the ass. And now you're seeing clear examples of it right here where anti-war voices, strong anti-war voices are being pulled down. So this is the current state of affairs. And it is fucking terrifying, man. It is. If they could just pull down an established outlet that was doing anti-war content like that and just claim like, oh yeah, funded by whatever, even though it's not a rule that you have to disclose who you're funded by RT, therefore you're eliminated. Well, again, like she said, where's that standard when it comes to the other outlets? Where's that standard when it comes to, I don't know, BBC, AJ+, so on and so forth? Turns out if you're an ally of the U.S. government, no, that's fine. But if you're not an ally of the U.S. government and we don't like what you're saying, then you're gone. So everybody should stand in solidarity with Rania Khalek. Send her a tweet of support, and hopefully they restore the accounts because this is sheer madness.